Can't see everybody from right here?
Right there.
See everybody?
Here, just hold it right there. You can see me better that way. Alright. Imagine never had to buy gas for your car ever again. Period. Only driving to a gas station for Cokes or gums or chips, candy, anything else but gas only. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about electric car conversions, converting a gas car from gas to electric. In October of 2012, there were 7,000 plug-in and all-electric hybrid vehicles sold in just the month of October in 2012, according to AlternativeFuels.com. If you compare that to when hybrid cars were first released in the market in the year 2000, there were only 9,350 sold in the entire year. That being said, electric cars are becoming a more popular thing than what they used to be. Mostly battery technology and everything else drives them to be better. Today I'd like to talk to you about the idea of converting cars. That's gasoline, converting them from gas to electric. One of the three things I'd like to talk to you about is car selection, choosing a car, and battery selection, choosing batteries. It depends on mostly on price range. And then drives and motors that you would use in a car. One of the first things I'd like to talk to you about is an electric car. When you're converting a car, is choosing a car. Choosing a car is not as hard as it used to be. Used to, you wanted a car that was real lightweight and easy to pull apart or anything else, because electric engines and batteries were real heavy. Now they're a lot lighter than they used to be, and batteries a lot lighter than they used to be, and now you can convert just about any vehicle that you've got. So you don't have to buy a pre-made Honda or Toyota car that's all electric to start with. You can actually convert the car that you drive. When you choose a car, you want a car that's, the lighter the car the better still, but it don't have to be light. And it's better to choose a car that you would like to drive anyway than choosing a car that is just functionality, because if it's just function, you're not going to want to drive it anyway. You can choose, I've seen people convert Camaros, Firebirds, and Mustangs, and I've seen pickup trucks converted. I've seen buses converted. I spent a lot of time studying electric cars, converting from gas to electric, because I plan on doing it myself one of these days. So, and you can get a lot of cars from salvage yards. The reason usually that they're in a salvage yard is because the engine has gone bad in the vehicle, and you don't need the engine anyway. With an electric car, all that stuff doesn't even matter anyway. The only thing you're needing is the car. So you can actually buy them from junk yards fairly cheap. Now, after you've bought a car that you're going to convert, my next topic I'd like to tell you about is batteries. Now, batteries is where it gets real different. That makes a big difference in the price that it costs to actually convert one. You can use lead acid. If you use lead acid, that's the cheapest battery that you can get. It's been around since late 1800s. But it's also the oldest technology in batteries that there is. They're really heavy and low on power storage. They don't store a whole lot of energy considering their weight. But they are cheap, they do the job, and they're very durable. They can take a lot of abuse, a lot more than other batteries, and survive. If you choose to use AGM, which is just a absorbent glass material instead of a lead acid just has silver or lead plates inside it with a water and acid solution poured into them for an electrolyte. Absorbent glass material uses a sponge-like material that goes inside it that's got the acid or the electrolyte that is absorbed into it to begin with. Those batteries are very durable. Very durable. They store a lot of energy, but they're still heavy. They can be tipped upside down. You can tip them upside down, turn them over, anything else doesn't bother them. Lead acid, if you turn it upside down, it pours all the water and acid out of it. Now, AGM batteries are more expensive than lead acid, but they do have more storage for power than lead acid does. Now, if you want to go, now they're more expensive though, but the best thing that they use is what they call lithium polymer. Now, lithium polymer batteries are very lightweight, extremely light for their power storage that they can store. Lithium polymer is in your laptops, it's in your cell phones, it's in a lot of toys, it's used in radio controlled aircraft, it's used about everywhere there's a battery that is not replaceable, like in some toys where you take them out and just put new ones in. If it's got a rechargeable battery, today most of the time it's lithium polymer, because it is extremely light and extremely powerful, but it's extremely expensive. If you do a lead acid battery pack in a car, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000. If you do lithium polymer, you're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 just for the batteries. So remember, when you do an electric car conversion, you need to know what kind of battery pack you're wanting to use at the end, because you wouldn't want to spend $30,000 on a conversion in a car and then turn around and spend another $30,000 on a battery pack. Makes a very small car really expensive really fast. Now, I've seen that happen. Now, the last thing I'd like to talk to you about would be drives and motors. I say drives and motors both because one affects the other. You don't want a undersized motor with an oversized drive, because you'll cook a $3,000 motor real quick. You'll toast it. But one of the things to consider is your price range. The second thing you'd want to consider would be what you want the car to do. Are you intending it to perform well, or are you intending for just to get you from point A to point B? If you're just intending for it to get from point A to point B, then a small motor and small drive will do just fine. They don't have a lot of top speed, and they don't have a whole lot of acceleration to them. But you can actually get larger electric motors that are very powerful. You can actually take some V8 engines and replace them with a large enough electric motor and produce more power than the V8 engine ever did in the first place. And the drives, you always want to make sure the drive is large enough for the motor itself that it can support the motor, because if a motor is oversized for the drive, it will draw more power than the drive can supply. When you do that, you can cook a $3,000 drive, because it's about the same price for the drive as it is for the motor. And that's the easiest thing to do, is remember what you want. Is the car going to be a performance car, or is it just going to be an everyday driver car? If it's just going to be an everyday driver car, then you don't want to spend $5,000 on motor, $5,000 on drive. You'd rather spend $1,500 on motor, $1,500 on drive. Now, one of the neat things about an electric car versus a gas car, if you got a 4-cylinder car, they're usually good on gas, and V8s are usually bad on gas. When an electric car, if you got a real small motor versus the larger motor that produces the power like V8 would, it doesn't use much, it doesn't consume more power out of the pack just to drive the car. They're essentially the same on mileage per charge, which is pretty good. Now, one thing to remember, according to Wikipedia, a internal combustion engine that's used in a car, only 25 to 30% of the energy burned in the fuel is spent to drive the car forward. The other 70 to 75% is spent in heat generation, just build up in heat. So for every 100 gallons of gasoline you put in the car, only 25 to 30 gallons of gas actually drives the vehicle where you're wanting to go. The other 70 to 75 gallons is burnt in fuel, in just heat, like a campfire. That's all it's done. Now, an electric car, 80% of the energy that's in the pack is used, converted to drive the car forward. 80%. Only 20% of it is lost due to friction or heat. It's just something you need to remember. And that's basically what I wanted to tell you. I just told you one of the ways to car selections: choosing a car, choosing a battery pack, or choosing a drive and motor. One thing to remember, crude oil is getting harder and harder to drill for, and one of these days the prices of crude oil will eventually start to rise and will continue to rise, and eventually that'll just be the end of crude oil, and the only vehicles left on the road that will be driving will be alternative fuel cars. Thank you.